Here we are, 8:30. As always, Bailey and French Monday Lives, and we cover all things humanizing the world of work. What's happening in this week, what's happened in the last couple of weeks, and what can we learn? What can we really be taking into this coming week? And we made it. And we had some technical difficulties jumping on, didn't we, Ben?
We did. We did. Yes. Very, very human.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or very me human. Yeah.
Well, I think it was both of us. I mean, even I'm on a different laptop, so yeah, it's all fun and games on a Monday morning. And I think this is it, right? This is what people are facing. This is the reality of work, and what's been going on and what's been happening. And me and you wanted to jump on today to explore something that we're both exploring actually in more and more depth. The more that we get asked from customers, the more that people are really interested in this. And this isn't necessarily even a new topic, actually, as we were talking about. So I'm really excited for today. But how are you? How's things?
I'm great. The wheels are starting to turn out there in kind of business world. Had my first client face-to-face meeting Thursday last, which was great. Just seeing real human beings in the actual flesh. Yeah. I wanted to press them to see if they were real. And then, last week running 2 workshops with actually people in a room, human beings again in a room. And it's just a different, it's energizing. It's a different dynamic, right? I did see a downside when you're delivering virtually, which I have been for the best part of 3 years. You've always got their name. So when you get people in a big room, you don't, unless they have got a name tags, you don't have
so
a name.
True.
So there's a lot of, hi, you. So I apologize if I had to ask anyone's name kind of three times. But yeah, right. It's just been great. Yeah.
It's so true. And you have to remember all of those things that maybe came so naturally before because you've maybe got lazy with them because you're right, you've got the names under. The thing that I've struggled with, same as you, I've had my first face-to-face and I don't get to see my own face, which is really weird. I'm like searching around, where is my own face? You want that feedback. How do I look?
Yeah.
What's going on? Is my hair okay?
Exactly. We've been staring at ourselves for far too long, haven't we?
Yeah. No, but it's great. It's great to be back, and it's great to be seeing clients. Well, one of the things I notice is you just get a real sense, and this is why I do what I do. I love going into businesses and really getting a sense for the culture, and you kind of really do get that back. And people are, not coming in Mondays and Fridays. Oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. Go and speak to people at the canteen. How are they? It's a different dynamic to the job that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are challenges with this, of course. People are gonna, even though we went in to see the client in a face-to-face workshop, there are people who are going to be at home now. So you've got those kind of hybrid ways of working. How's that going to work with half the people in the room, half the people at home? And it's a big challenge for us at the moment in the learning space. We're going to have to deal with hybrid learning coming up very, very soon. How do you keep people, how do you change the engagement from kind of virtual and the face-to-face? We've had virtual or face-to-face. We're now going to have, a blend of the two, which is going to be challenging. So, but we're up for the challenge, of course.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, isn't it? How do you keep it engaged? How do you keep it inclusive? What are the sort of rules and ways of working that you have to reestablish maybe at the beginning and kind of talk to each other and go, look, recognize that the experience might not be as great. Is everyone okay? What's happening? What are some of the rules that we want to put in place as a team or as a group to make sure that people do feel included and their voice is heard? Because that was one of the benefits, wasn't it, of remote or virtual? You could really make sure that everyone had a voice. And so just making sure that happens again. Yeah, it's a great time. It's a great time to be doing the work that we're doing. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and one of the things that we're exploring more and more, and as we said, this isn't new. The whole concept around creating a more human customer experience has been around for an awfully long time. HBR, I think 2012, 2013, PwC was 2019. There's some really great stats and data around people just craving that more human touch within their kind of client or customer experience, whether that's kind of through an app and certain technology, or whether that's, as we've talked about before, working closely with a consultant and with a human being. and getting that kind of deeper connection with them. But whatever that means, kind of exploring what it means to have a more human customer experience.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about the human experience, I think Deloitte as well did some work on this, but the human experience is the complete experience that people have with a brand, either digitally or physically. So we've probably all been through initiatives like customer experience, and we can measure that. We can do some measures with NPS scores or satisfaction scores. Employee experience, in my experience, you can't really have customer first experience or customer experience without having the employee experience. There's also partner experience as well. So we all work with partners, and how do we really make those relationships kind of watertight as well. But the human experience is everything. It encompasses everything. And most organizations are now looking to create a more human experience to everyone, to the whole ecosystem, to their employees, supply chain, obviously customers. So we're very interested in this in Bailey and French, and we, where does that come from? We run a human leadership program as well, which really, all organizations shadow with a leader and everything like that. If you're going to have a human experience culture, or one that fosters human experience, it's got to come from the leadership, right? So what does that look like? So it's an interesting thing. And I think it picked up on the topic that we discussed a couple of weeks ago about humanizing the world of sales and how we engage with everything, and that kind of leads into it definitely leads into that topic as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one that touches, as you said, it's kind of all stakeholders, humanizing every single connection with the brand. And if that is a more human experience, and I guess we can delve into, well, what does that actually mean? But when you have that more human connection where people feel like they can bring their ideas and bring their true selves and bring their diversity of thought, everyone's more included in those discussions. And like you said, whether that's a customer and a client, whether that's someone down the supply chain, it's a partner, it's someone that you're partnering with a marketing campaign, whoever it is that is that stakeholder, it's that human element. And you're right, if it doesn't come from the top and you don't have those human role models, your brand's going to suffer as a result. And we've seen many and we're not going to delve into it. I think we can all come up with many an example of where poor decisions have been made about people that doesn't seem very human. I think we all know what I'm talking about there. But
yeah, and decision making is people like to think decision making is made by logic. If you're buying something, a B2C, if you're actually purchasing off Amazon, people like to say, well, it's emotional, it's your money. And the B2B world is based on logic and facts. Neuroscience says that that's wrong, right? We buy on emotion. We find facts and logic to really try and back it up. Emotions here are very, very critical to the human experience. If we're gonna do something, if we're gonna make a decision and it's got a positive or a negative outcome, we're gonna lead with our emotional side rather than the cognitive side. And that's true in the business world, right? And we really have to start recognizing or understanding that. It's going to change the way, hopefully, that we'll do business. I mean, has it ever happened to you? Have you ever just thought, you're working with a client, everything's there, all the facts and reasons are there, and they just won't make a decision, and you think, it makes perfect sense on paper. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And it happens all the time, right? You can put a very clever business case together. If we do this, this is what the outcome is going to be, and if we don't do this, this is probably what's going to happen in the eventual cost. And if you don't move now, the impact on retention and agility of the business. Everyone's talking about agility and speed right now over kind of explosive growth. I think we can all come up with examples where it's gone horribly wrong. I think we can probably come up with examples where it's gone incredibly right. And I think this is also where we need to tap in. It's about, okay, so what does a human experience actually mean? And think of a time where you've really felt connected, and therefore, you are making decisions more so based on emotion. So let's tap into that. Let's understand that a little bit more. Let's understand why. But also making sure that the business has processes in place to make sure that actually, you don't solely buy on emotion, because that would be quite dangerous for any organization. So having that real balance is always quite critical. But it's the Dan Early kind of what's it called? Predictably irrational. I couldn't remember it, but great concept. About how human beings actually interact with brands and buy things and deal with clients.
Yeah. I think I saw a quote the other day that said we come into the world as humans and we leave the world as humans, and everything in between, especially in our professional lives, is very inhuman sometimes. It's quite interesting. I mean, if you remember in your life all the experiences that you've had in your life, it's meant something to you. It's sparked the kind of emotion. Be it a family holiday, something happening in your family, something like that has always stayed in your mind. I'm not saying we can drive that all the time in our professional lives or at work, but how can we bring those more human or those experiences to our work, and definitely communicate some of those experiences to our clients. It's a difficult one. It's intangible at the moment, but it's
Well, I think if I don't know, I'm just thinking back. You sparked the word holiday is really hot on my brain at the moment, because I'm desperate to go away. And you're right. That's probably the best example, where you go abroad, or you go to a really nice hotel, or you go and those are the experiences where you have someone at the desk and they're really friendly and you have that real connection with them quite quickly. If you've been on TUI holidays or whatever, and you get the person with you and you get the rep and they're all super friendly. And American customer service is second to none, and you get that amazing connection and everything flows really easily. I guess what we're kind of saying is, why don't we just do that across all stakeholders of the business to make sure that every interaction is like that with the brand? Absolutely. And I think if you went back 10 years, maybe even beyond that, looking at the real focus around engagement, if people are engaged, then people will kind of have a great customer experience. And I think it is true, but I think it's one part of creating a human experience. We used to say, well, if people are more in flow and they love what they do, and you hire the right people who naturally get energy from what they're doing, they will be more excited, more energized to come to work, and they'll deliver a better customer experience. I think it's a little bit more than that. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. And it's at multiple touch points as well. So it's where, if people go on your website, is it just a good looking website? It tells you, your purpose and your solutions, or does it make them feel something? What is it that kind of human experience? We can do it for our websites. We can do it, every single touch point they have, be it customer service, be it sales, be it marketing, whatever it is in your organization. Are we making people feel something? And it's very difficult, right? It's very difficult. Going back to what I was saying before, I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and I made a conscious decision years ago that I'm not going to buy her things and stuff, because they're not going to remember it. I'm going to be taking down the charity shop in a year's time. I'm going to buy experiences, human experiences that is going to be in a memory banks for years and years. And I think let's start bringing some of that into business.
It's a really it's another great example. You're gifting something, you may as well gift something that is meaningful long term. And that's the experience that you're trying to get with the brand, right? You want a human, meaningful connection long term to build that loyalty with the customer. But you've just explained that in a really human way.
Yeah. So it's all about brand loyalty, picking up on the point you just did. So how do we make people loyal to our brands? And it's that kind of two words there, the long term. and it's very difficult to do. And picking up what you and me were talking about this morning about P&O, that's something obviously very, very, very topical in the news at the moment. And I don't know the full story, but it's not a very human way, is it, to really engage? And obviously that's done it's done damage to the brand. It's basically all about how do we maximize profits and capitalize on the fire and the rehire. And that's unfortunately going to take years and years, if ever, to really kind of outlive the reputation damage that they've done.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important for brands to be building the human experience. We've been talking a lot to kind of the C-level. Why do we even want to take this human approach and this strategy? And it's risk is one of the biggest things. People at the click of a button can share their experience with your brand, and that's been the case for a long time. But very quickly, a story can be made around what's happened, and similar to you, I don't know the ins and the outs of what's happened with P&O, but that's what I was talking about earlier. And it's a very risky move to be not investing in leadership at a more human level, to be building these more human connections, because if they're not making more human decisions, your brand is at risk for the long term. Will P&O ever recover? Will I, as a consumer, want to go and purchase a P&O cruise ever again?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. We're to see. But I do know that customers and employees are getting their expectations are getting a lot higher than maybe perhaps they were 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And especially when there's other brands out there that could do exactly the same thing. You always have an experience if you go into a store. The way they treat customers is so important, and it stays in you. And I've bought products where I'll go into a shop and just it could be someone having a bad day, or it could be someone who's got something on their mind. But the way I'm treated within that store stays. That kind of whole experience, how it made me feel, stays with me. And it could change in the future if I buy another product or I go somewhere else. There's so much choice out there. There's so much data at our fingertips. We can make decisions. So we have the logic, as I was saying earlier, but it's really the emotional side that's gonna sway it. It's gonna change it. So. But again, it's one of those things that probably companies are probably thinking about. They probably know about the human experience, definitely. But it's another thing to really implement a human experience culture.
Yeah. And we get it all the time, don't we? So, I don't know. I'll ask you in a minute. But I've definitely had a couple of conversations, at least, where they go, we're building this strategy going forward, and we're going to kind of we've identified all these skills that need to be learned, and so here is a program that we're going to deliver those things. When you're talking about the human experience, what are those skills, and also how are they deployed? How are you delivering that learning? Because by definition, it's a little bit more emotional. It takes a little bit longer. I can probably learn Excel in an afternoon. It's a skill. It's not something that comes naturally to me, so I'd have to invest some time to sit and to go through it. But it's maybe something I can learn on my own, maybe through some e-learning. Human experience, if I don't have that conversation with you, Ben, with someone else, if I don't have the longevity of changing that habit over time, you're not going to see much different. I don't know. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, and I think that kind of how you do it is probably more important. So to have the skills. Well, we talk about skills and knowledge separate, but to really have a program where you want to implement a more human experience culture, you've got to allow people to talk. It's almost like controlled talking space, where how do you think about it? And we do that here at Bain in French. The kind of skill. I've been at Bain in French for a couple of months now, and I've bought in for years in the learning world that unless you're bringing something to life in an actual skill development workshop, it's just the chalk and talk. You're going to listen to me. I can talk to you all day about theory. I'll bore you, but I can talk to you forever because I like it. But it's not. I'll bore anyone. But it's not about me. It's about people in the room. And if we can give them a topic or something to talk, and we can facilitate a discussion between people, that's one way of a small way, but it's one way of trying to build a human experience. By asking people what they think about it, how it fits into the model of the organization. Does the culture allow it? Do they have the psychological safety to be able to flex? Do they have the right leadership? Everything comes up, but it's got to be a safe space. And they've got to be open. They've got to be open and honest as well.
Yeah. And you're right. It's more, okay, so we know what the skills actually are around the human experience. We can label those. It's based firmly in research, so there's all of that to kind of grapple with. But actually learning the skill and practicing the skill, and then feeling like it's authentic to you, rather than just a tick box exercise to be human, it doesn't work by definition. Therefore it's not human, and therefore you have to invest in the time to do these things properly. And the other thing I was thinking about, I was watching Netflix last night, classic kind of documentary on wildlife, just trying to relax before bed really, and dolphins came up, right? And so they're one of the very few animals that just learn and play for fun. So there's an element of how are we building just having fun and joy, and the concept around joy. We've spoken about a little bit on our live sessions, but how are we building some of those key principles about how human beings thrive to your own learning experiences?
Absolutely.
It's not just about learning that skill and then going home. It's about really getting that human experience in the learning experience to help you really consider it and really take it on board, so that the lasting change happens.
Yeah. And and there's a joy or enjoyment about being taken out of your comfort zone sometimes in a controlled environment, in a learning experience. I think if you're going to turn up to a learning experience and just sit there and try and absorb as much knowledge, are you really going to be able to take that on and apply it back in the workplace? Probably not. I think it's not only a learning experience, it's meetings, it's how can we create the right environments for human beings to thrive, and that is one way as well to bring it. What if you're going to have a sales meeting talking about figures and where you are away from targets? How do we make that more enjoyable? It's a question, and it's just giving some thought to those things is one way to really, try and create the right environment for a human experience to flourish.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true, and really difficult. I can definitely see, even though the theory, and even though you've maybe built some skill over time because you're conscious of it, even then there's a whole world of learning to make sure it feels authentic and you do it and it becomes a habit. And it's difficult, isn't it? It's a difficult balance, for sure.
Yeah. I'd love to hear from other people as well. And when I go out and there and meet clients and prospects, I'm always asking them questions. I'm very, very curious about what they do within the organizations to make people enjoy it. I always ask that question. People say, well, we've got low turnover rates. And I said, no, I don't mean the metrics. Do people flourish here at this company? And it kind of puts people back, and they think, I think people like it. And you say, well, okay, but more and more lately, I've been talking to people, and they say, oh, people love it because of these reasons, or we're a nice, friendly team, and this is how we, this is what we do as a team together. They're very close. They really support each other. All those things in place can make people flourish as well. And it's very important. The relationships they have at the work, the leadership, which is absolutely crucial. The environment, is it a psychologically safe environment that allows mistakes, that allows people to speak up, to allow everyone to have a voice. We might think they are in place. Yeah, we kind of have them, but just start giving them some thought. So if anyone's listening, when you have your meetings this week and it's very data heavy meeting, or it's a meeting run by leadership, just give some thought about, is this a safe environment? Are people allowed having a voice? Does everyone get a say? Just give it some thought. I'm going to do it this week. I'm going to do it this week.
That's a commitment. That's a commitment here on MondayLive.
I promise. I promise.
No,
Scouts on.
But that's the thing, right? Even just going, right, that's the thing I'm focused on this week. That little small change to my work environment. I'm just going to go into meetings with that hat on and just consciously ask that question and be that presence in that meeting. And what you were saying right back at the beginning around kind of stakeholder engagement with the brand more generally, it's not just internal meetings, because I think we can, I don't know, at Bailey and French, I feel like that happens a lot. There's always a kind of human element, at least at the beginning or end of meeting, and even throughout. There's always that consciousness, I feel, but maybe less so when you're putting the client face or the partner face or whatever face you feel like you need to bring to the professional workplace. And actually, that's the place to maybe push yourself out of your comfort zone this week. Can you maybe do it in an environment where you wouldn't normally do it? Can you build that kind of inclusivity, that psychological safety, that more human element to those meetings with your stakeholders that maybe you wouldn't normally do that to? I don't know.
Yeah. No,
let's see what happens.
Now
we're going to get a load of people going, no, it didn't work for me this week. I overshared in that meeting, but I really wish I hadn't done.
I wish I wasn't so human. There's always a balance to everything. But, as I said at the beginning, the neuroscience studies are showing us that decision-making is made on emotion. So it goes against some of the really, factual, logic-based meetings that we have with clients. So just try it a different way. Just try it a different way. Is there any stories that we can bring to life? Are there any anecdotes? Are there any real life experiences that can tell a story much better than figures on a page? Just give it a go.
Yeah, and there's plenty of roles out there now. Human. I wish they were human experience. I think they should be human experience.
Right?
But kind of the customer experience experts, the employee experience experts, when you're going and you're mapping what the customer journey looks like, and you're thinking about what it means to be human at each of those touch points, because that's important with the brand. Thinking about, well, how are we going to actually deliver on that strategy this year with the human beings that we have in our workplaces, and go the next level now. I think a lot of companies have done an awful lot. If you're in customer service, if you're in hospitality, if you're in, all of these industries that we know do it really well, but maybe you're in a different industry, or maybe you just want to take it to the next level. Really be thinking about what skills and the way that you're going to help people to learn these more human ways of working, I think could be quite powerful for you heading into the new financial year, if that's your time of year. I can't believe it's 9 o'clock already. Where did that go?
Wow. God, I could talk to you for ages, Anne. Yeah, but it's a great start to the week, actually, and I wish everyone out there in LinkedIn world a happy Monday and a fantastic week.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. I hope there's been a few little bits there for you to take away. As Ben said, across LinkedIn, YouTube, if you're watching this live, or whether you're watching it afterwards. I know there's a few of you that do that and send a few comments, so thank you. And we'll try and get back to you as much as possible. Join us next Monday, 8:30 as always. So yeah, thank you, Ben, for joining. That's your second one. We'll get you back and we'll keep this conversation going, because this is a great one.
Great.
So thank you.
Okay. Bye all. Right. See you later. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.